Hello and a warm welcome to Federal Special Program Capital Beat. Uttarakhand government yesterday tabled the Uniform Civil Code Bill, which lists out the laws and guidelines regarding marriage, divorce, inheritance. But the most contentious portion of the bill, over which there is a lot of outcry, is the guideline over the live-in relationships. Now, if you look at the bill very closely, one has to get their live-in relationship registered. If you fail to do so, you end up paying a fine, or also there could be a jail term. Now, everyone is saying that, is the government trying to peek into the bedrooms? Is it a violation of the privacy? Is it a violation of the fundamental right? How does one look at this bill? Joining me now is the constitutional expert and veteran Supreme Court lawyer, Sanjay Hegde. So thank you so much for joining. And so if you have, if you have seen the bill, sir, it very clearly lays out the guidelines for the live-in relationships, that one has to register the live-in relationships. If you fail to do so, you end up getting a jail term, or you have to pay the fine, and fines up to like 25,000, from 10,000 to 25,000. Now, how would you look at this particular clause of the bill, sir?
Well, there are several reasons why I don't think it's a good idea. But then whether I consider it a good idea or not is not the issue. The point is that live-in relationships being registered, there being other consequences like maintenance for the woman after the live-in relationship is terminated, the progeny being legitimized and having a share in property, essentially means that you have a marriage in all but name. Now, if, as a matter of conscience, people say that we do not want to get married, you are forcing them to have a relationship which is akin to a marriage. This is one part of it. The second part of it is that the law extends not only within the state of Uttarakhand, it also extends to those residents of Uttarakhand who may be living outside the state, but who they say are residents. Now, just think of a girl from Dehradun who's gone to Bangalore on a software job and decides to live in. Now, she has to compulsorily get her live-in relationship registered in Karnataka, because that's what the law provides. And then it will be transmitted on to. So this is the law going in where
so allow me
people.
to interrupt you. Right.
Yeah.
No, you said that if the girl coming from Bangalore who stays in Dehradun gets into
No,
a
no.
live-in relationship,
Yes, both ways,
she
both
has
ways.
to, okay, so she has to register herself, or he has to register himself in Karnataka also.
No, see, the other way around, then she would have to register. There's the option of registering and Karnataka and then getting getting sent. But
Right.
if a Bangalore girl has come into Dehradun, she can very well register in Dehradun.
All right.
So
All right.
there is extraterritorial operation of state legislation.
Right.
And I know of at least one concrete case where both parties are doing well. They're living in Delhi, but the lady is from Dehradun. Now, would she have to register first in Delhi? Otherwise, would she have to pay a fine in Dehradun, or would she be liable to be imprisoned for not registration?
Right.
The law is going too far.
Right. But what does it mean socially as well? Now, what will happen? What will the people suffer? What will they go through? Because, I mean, as there are a lot of political reactions coming in that, the government is trying to peek into your bedrooms. The government, why should one register even if you are having a live-in relationship? Because given the social context, there are many people who want to remain discreet about their live-in relationships. So is the government trying to use coercion just to declare that you are in a live-in relationship, and what could be the pitfalls of it?
First obvious pitfall. Now, people may want to get into a live-in relationship, not marry. Later, they may decide to marry the same person or another person. Now, when you have a registered live-in relationship, the person whom you ultimately end up marrying will necessarily know that, look, there was a registered live-in relationship earlier. Otherwise, these are things which often go on trust and intimacy between the partners concerned, and it's on often on need to know basis.
Right.
Now, all that agency is taken away. So that's point one. And when I read the clause closely, it also occurred to me that a lot of people who have discreetly installed a mistress elsewhere, they too would qualify as being in a live-in relationship because it's a shared household, same roof. So I do think that there is a case to be made out, or some vigilante can make out a case
Yeah.
that you must compulsorily register your mistress as well.
Right. But I mean, as you said, that the law has gone too far. Now, I mean, this is one danger that some vigilante group might just go and complain, and then the registrar would land up at your doorstep. Now, what is it that people are not realizing this law brings in really, socially, politically, and otherwise as well?
See, the law brings in uh, control, state control over relationships, which are private, which are in the intimate space, and which both parties thereto possibly do not want others to know. Now, we all today know of many people who are in partnerships, who are invited together, but then who have decided not to formalize any relationship. Now, the law requires a compulsory formalization, as it were.
Hmm.
There are other consequences also. Now, once there is a compulsory formalization, there is also a legitimization of children.
Hmm.
The legitimization of children then has an impact on property rights within people's families, and it is not only within the man's family.
Right.
Conversely, the woman may have a lot of property, and she decides that she doesn't want to get married, but she doesn't mind having a friend living in with her.
Right. Absolutely. No, but Mr. Hegde, I was listening to reactions coming in from BJP as well. Now, say for example, Meenakshi Lekhi yesterday said that the women in the country will never oppose a law like this. Now, does it bring any sort of happiness for women, or are they really in now for very, very difficult times?
Some women may find happiness in the fact that they have some kind of status at least. Very often, women get into relationships, but they have no status whatsoever. Now, if that relationship is compulsorily formalized, then you may not be a married wife, but you can be a registered partner. So yes, some people may, but these are often problems of older people. The young who are experimenting with relationships, who want to not to formalize relationships, who think that formal relations are essentially slavery. Those kind of people, they will have to trade with their conscience if they want to be in a steady state relationship. Now, even a live-in relationship, you have a period of 1 month to register. So are we going to have a series of 29-day relationships? and a breakup at the end of it.
Hmm.
All kinds of things are possible.
Right.
The question is, what state interest is served
Hmm.
by
Yeah.
poking into people's bedrooms
Right.
and requiring some registrar somewhere to have a register of all such relationships? Yeah, I've also heard this thing, this defense that that women will be more safe, and there is a reference to the Shraddha Walkar case.
Hmm. Hmm.
But that's a bit like saying that if a car is registered, it is safe from accidents. That's not the case, is it?
Exactly. No, no, but
Or
what?
there are women within marriages who have a face, who have a fate like Shraddha Walkar. In the
Right.
Swami Shraddhananda case, where I argued, a man got
Yeah.
married a woman, took her away from a previous marriage, married
Right.
her, then buried her alive.
Right. But Mr. Hegde, what do you think is the objective of the government behind bringing this law? Is it political? Is it, bringing in that kind of a social control, as you said, that, regulating and controlling the lives of citizens? Is that the objective? What does one make out really?
Well, I do think that this government has a certain control freak nature in it. Whether it is the over expansion of Aadhaar, whether it is now this kind of registration of personal relationships, uh, and a whole host of other things. Uh, it also has a kind of tendency to take away individual agency. A live-in relationship is between two people. Now you would have the registrar being involved. You could also have local vigilante groups who will object to marriages which have to be announced in advance. You will have vigilante groups going around saying, "Oh, these two people are living together in such and such a building. They don't have a registration of a live-in relationship." So uh, this is where the government, where it can interfere, wants to interfere. If it uh, if it can't interfere, it can seek informal policing in the form of vigilante groups. Uh, Previously, you had cow vigilantes coming in and checking your refrigerator. Now you will have what shall we say, anti-Romeo squads. I believe that was the phrase once used.
Yeah, yeah. By the yogi.
Anti-Romeo squads coming into your bedroom.
Right. But does it happen in any developed world or maybe a democracy? Is this kind of a law which is really envisioned, Mr. Hegde?
See, uh, there are laws which regulate relationships, and where people can voluntarily get into some kind of registration or some kind of agreements and things like that. But to compulsorily require everything to be registered, that I don't think there are. Because you see, even some of these kind of live-ins are what are called common law marriages. When they break up, there are consequences. All that, yes, but there is no compulsion backed by state power, as is the case here.
But Mr. Hegde, I really just fail to understand that if the law has so many pitfalls, what is there really to look forward in this particular bill? It has imposition, it has formalization of personal relationships, which really don't go against an individual life, which doesn't go against privacy, and I mean, these are things which people would not warrant actually. So, what is the bright side of the bill one really can look forward to?
Well, this bill is not only about live-in relationships. Live-in relationships is just one chapter. This is the first draft. At last, we have a draft of
Yes.
what a BJP government considers to be a common civil code. What it essentially says is that all forms of marriage are okay. You can marry through a nikah, you can marry through an anand karaj, you can marry whichever way. But dissolution of a marriage, you cannot go through the customary way. You need a solemn act, which is only through the courts. The point is that, there are two conceptions of marriage uh, in the two major religions. For Hindus and Christians, marriage is a sacrament. It's a holy rite, and it's only now that through the civil courts that a holy rite is undone. Otherwise, it was janam janam ka rishta, and you were stuck with it. Now, as far as Islam is concerned, the conception of marriage is that of a contract. And like any other contract, it can be undone by the act of the parties. Parties can agree to put it to an end. And then, as long as you go through that particular procedure, that is, repeat the word talaq over a period of 3 months, then that is a valid dissolution of a contract. Now, what has happened with this bill is that everybody has been brought down or brought up to a solemn act of the civil courts getting into the dissolution of a marriage.
Right. But Mr. Hegde, how does it culminate? Now, say, for example, Uttarakhand will pass this bill, then you will have other states also, which is quite likely because Assam and then other BJP ruling states also will try and bring in, and UCC, Goa already has it. So are we going to have different UCCs in different states, and then you will have one central law? How does it really end up? I mean,
We will have to see how the game is played out. But essentially, what it looks to me is that these are trial balloons which are floated. You start it in one state, one small state. Then maybe other states can do a cut, copy, paste job, or they may have their own local variants.
right.
Even the Uttarakhand bill uh, does not apply to scheduled tribes.
Yes.
So they've made an exception there. Another state may make exceptions for other kinds of citizens and residents.
Right.
So we don't know whether there will be cut, copy, paste or whether there will be local variants. At which point of time, if there are too many local variants and there is nothing uniform about it, the center may then say that now, look, there is a demand for uniformity throughout the country, and that's how we bring it.
Right. But that was an important point which you raised, that, tribals have got an exemption under this law. And I was reading All India Muslim Personal Law Board statement yesterday, and they said that this is not acceptable. If the tribals can get an exemption, then why not Muslims? Now, does the situation lead to some kind of an outcry where minorities like Muslims will be up and against the government?
Well, I do think that there is a certain political calculation here, that there is an attempt to bait the Muslim community into coming out in protest and doing a repeat of the Shah Banu protests.
Okay.
And it would be interesting to watch what the Muslim community does, whether it repeats what happened during Shah Banu and then the entire framework that happened thereafter, or whether they say that this is not acceptable and we call upon pious Muslims to continue following their personal law, and that under the personal law, if you are divorced, you are divorced. Maybe the registration under this act can take its own sweet time, but you will continue to follow.
Right. So does it mean that this law obviously is going to lead to a social unrest, and then it could end up being challenged in the court again?
No, challenges in court will be separate from whatever happens in society or on the streets. There will be various provisions which will be challenged, not only now, but maybe at a point of time in the future when somebody feels aggrieved. I would not recommend a wholesale challenge. You see, there is such a culture of rushing into courts with half-baked ideas and half-baked uh, petitions, and then the court gives a judgment based on that, which then prevent the development of law in the future.
No, but sir,
So,
the contentious clause on live-in relationships, can that not be challenged by women?
of course, it can. Of course, it can be challenged. Now, supposing somebody who actually has a problem challenges it, rather than pose of public interest litigants. Somebody who is in a live-in relationship in Bangalore, for instance, were to challenge it in the Uttarakhand High Court, saying that I happen to be living most of my time in Bangalore. I am a resident of Uttarakhand. I have property in Uttarakhand, and I do not think that I want any relationship of mine registered. Then the court has a steady factual matrix against which to examine all these claims.
Right.
I think that is a better course of action rather than wholesale that this entire law is bad.
Right. All right. So we'll have to wait and watch how this law unfolds and which are the states which will really follow the same course. Thank you so much, Mr. Hegde, for joining on The Federal. And one appeal to the viewers who are watching this interview, subscribe to our channel, send us a feedback, and stay tuned to The Federal. Thank you.
Subscribe to The Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.